Shenzhen Real Estate Giant owes $1 billion in unpaid salaries, employees demand wages in viral video. China's real estate market rocks again, zombification rises. Chinese government trying to conceal 7 big data. Fertility rate at record low, China expected to face more economic hardship. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Shenzhen Real Estate Giant owes $1 billion in unpaid salaries, employees demand wages in viral video. Against the backdrop of China's real estate industry facing a crisis with numerous companies defaulting or on the brink of default, including Evergrande, which has filed for bankruptcy in New York, another major Chinese real estate player has exploded onto the scene with employee salary arrears reaching 1 billion Chinese yuan, approximately $137.34 million. In detail, on August 16, a video went viral on the internet, showing that inside the office of Shenzhen Zhongyuan's chairman and general manager, Xing Shuluan, multiple employees approached him to request their salaries and asked, "Can you pay the employees' commissions first?" Some employees stated that their commission fees had been overdue for 6 to 7 years, and they hoped to find a resolution. One female employee, with tears in her eyes, said to Xing Shuluan, "In such a fiercely competitive environment, we work so hard, and you treat us like this, making our lives so difficult that we can't even meet our basic needs." She continued, "I'm really out of options, boss. I can't afford my child's tuition, I can't even afford my meals. What do you suggest? I'm a single mother with 2 kids, struggling here. You can investigate, you can check. I'm not lying at all." In the video, the general manager remained silent and did not make any response in the face of the crying female employee's pleas. According to a circulated document titled Notification Regarding Commission Advance Payments for Shenzhen Zhongyuan, bearing the signature of Shi Junrong, CEO of Zhongyuan Group, and dated August 11, 2023, due to the downturn in the real estate industry and the successive financial crises of major developers, they owe substantial sales commissions to the Zhongyuan Group and its related companies. This has resulted in significant losses and challenging operations for the company. The unpaid commissions owed to Shenzhen Zhongyuan exceed 1 billion yuan, approximately $137.34 million, with 535 million yuan initiated for litigation, including over 400 million yuan already ordered by the courts for compulsory execution, and 135 million yuan pending judgment. According to First Financial News, due to financial problems among many property developers, sales commissions for real estate agencies have become empty promises that are slow to materialize. A real estate agent stated that the current situation in the industry is, "We do the work, sell the houses, sign the contracts, but we don't get paid." In recent times, China's real estate giants have been collapsing one after another. Evergrande Group, for instance, has declared debts of 1,833.819 billion yuan, approximately $285.69 billion, with total assets of 1,468.557 billion yuan, approximately $227.49 billion, indicating insolvency. In this situation, whether Shenzhen Zhongyuan can eventually receive its commission remains uncertain. On August 18, veteran Japanese media personality Akihiro Yabuta expressed in a Facebook post that the success and failures of these companies resemble a farce. He lamented the plight of those who have depleted their lifelong savings and those of their parents, buying houses but not receiving them. He candidly stated that for the millions of Chinese people living under Chinese Communist Party rule, being harvested like leeks with nowhere to escape is the real tragedy of their lives. Leeks is used metaphorically to refer to individuals who are continually and systematically exploited or taken advantage of, typically for financial gain by those in power or authority, without much regard for their well-being, similar to how leeks are harvested by cutting them from the ground. China's real estate market rocks again, zombification rises. China's real estate market rocked again on Friday, August 18, after another developer, Soho China, reported a significant drop in revenue, hours after China Evergrande Group filed for bankruptcy in a New York court. Soho China, a mid-sized commercial real estate company listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, reported a first-half net profit of 13.61 million yuan, down 93% from a year earlier. Revenue, mostly from Beijing and Shanghai rentals, fell 8% to 821.50 billion yuan, but gross profit fell sharply and the fair value assessment of its assets reversed, cutting more than 130 billion yuan from the company's bottom line. Meanwhile, among 38 state-owned housing companies listed in Hong Kong, 18 preliminarily reported losses for the first half of the year. The situation is worsening as there were only 11 reported losses for the whole year of 2022. 2 years ago, only 4 state-owned housing companies suffered losses. This raises an alarm that state-owned builders can no longer resist the housing market downturn. Zheng Zhujun, a senior analyst at CreditSights Research, said, "The slowdown in Chinese real estate has damaged all developers, including large government-related developers. We do not expect substantial improvement in the second half of the year." Bloomberg pointed out that the companies that suffered the losses included some large state-owned developers. For example, Shenzhen Huaxia Diaspora Group warned that the company would lose about $233 million in the first half of the year. In the second half of last year, this company suffered losses, which is the first time since it was established in 1997. For state-owned housing companies, although the loss does not necessarily mean that there will be a liquidity crisis, the loss will weaken their ability to undertake unfinished projects, which in turn will have an adverse impact on the real estate industry. In another spotlight, the heavily indebted Evergrande filed for Chapter 15 protection, which is meant for insolvency cases involving non-U.S. companies and other cross-border parties. The company said in its filing that it is undergoing a restructuring process in both Hong Kong and the Evergrande subsidiary in the Cayman Islands. Tianji Holdings, its subsidiary, also sought Chapter 15 bankruptcy protection on Thursday in the United States Southern District Bankruptcy Court in Manhattan. Moreover, new contagion fears were sparked by the debt crisis at Country Garden, China's largest property developer and formerly seen to be a financially stable company. Evergrande's filing, along with Soho's poor financial performance and other cases, reinforced China's deepening property crisis that could extend all over the country as growth slows amid shrinking domestic consumption, rising unemployment, and a weak economy. Already, zombification among Chinese real estate developers is on the rise. Zombification means that the developers become unable to pay for construction costs and cannot advance construction projects. With the decline of new residential sale prices across China in July, companies in financial distress are abandoning unfinished construction projects, signaling that the business model of Chinese property developers based on rising real estate values has reached its limit. The National Bureau of Statistics conducted a poll in July and found that prices dropped from the previous month in 70% of the 70 major cities surveyed. For the second month in a row, the simple average of new home prices in the cities fell by 0.2% in July, after falling by less than 0.1% in June. On Wednesday, the statistics agency also said that in July, month-over-month prices for newly constructed homes fell in 49 locations, an increase of 11 from June. The decline in prices in major cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen persisted in July. Condominium prices are declining because there are fewer buyers than sellers due to ongoing economic and job market uncertainty. Many condo owners are selling because they expect declining prices to force them out of their investments. The total investment in real estate development for the January-July period was 6.77 trillion yuan, $943.5 billion, which was 8.5% lower than the previous year. The main reason for that was a 7.6% reduction in residential housing investment, which accounted for roughly 3/4 of the total. Property investment also fell as many developers struggled to get financing. For instance, in the first 7 months, the amount of funds available for property development was 7.82 trillion yuan, an 11.2% decrease from the previous year. Meanwhile, the case of Zhongrong poses a systematic risk for China. News of leading trust company Zhongrong International Trust Company scrapping its investment products this week highlighted China's shadow banking sector's overexposure to the real estate sector, as well. Trapped in a severe property crisis, this Beijing-based company has halted payments to investors in its bonds while a debt restructuring is underway. According to Shen Meng, a director at Beijing-based investment firm Shenzhen & Co., a liquidity crisis in the trust business could have far-reaching ramifications for the larger economy. Retail investors with exposure to Zhongrong bonds may see their wealth diminish, listed companies may see reduced capital for growth and investment, and local governments, which are already saddled with debt, may face additional challenges when implementing measures to support China's declining economy. So, what can we expect about the future of this crisis? Last month, China's Communist Party Politburo raised the hopes of investors in the nation's beleaguered property sector by hinting that it was considering providing support to distressed developers. Although no bold stimulus measures have been announced until now, analysts hope that Beijing could provide some forms of liquidity support for construction and delivery of unfinished projects, but will refrain from state-funded bailouts to stem the downward spiral. According to a report by credit sites on Tuesday, August 15, with thousands of homebuyers facing delays in obtaining their homes or worse, not getting their homes at all, the Chinese authorities are likely to avoid such a scenario, lest thousands of homebuyers become victims of unfinished projects, and igniting a repeat of last year's mortgage boycotts. The report added, with home demand still tenuous, a second round of project halts is likely to crimp homebuyer sentiment even further. Consequently, providing liquidity support for bond refinancing will likely take a back seat. Chinese government trying to conceal 7 big data. The Chinese Communist Party-led government has recently gradually curtailed its exposure to sensitive data, especially adverse economic data, such as land sales, foreign exchange reserves, bond trading, as well as COVID pandemic deaths and government officials' resumes. Youth unemployment. The Chinese government last week announced that it will not publish the data on the unemployment rate of young people in urban areas for the time being, after the rate has repeatedly hit new highs. Last month, the National Bureau of Statistics of China said that the youth unemployment rate rose in July and hit a new high. But on August 7, it announced that it would suspend the release of relevant data. The Bureau claimed that the calculation of the real employment rate is complex, and the government believes that changes in the economy and labor patterns mean that current models may not accurately reflect the reality. More than just the number of youth unemployment in urban areas, the Chinese Communist Party-led government is trying to hide a series of other data. Land sales. The Chinese government no longer reported the land sales by property developers in the monthly data. Last year, China's land sales fell more than 50% from a year earlier, which means the housing crisis was more serious than what the government said. In the official reports, local governments only saw a 23% drop in their land sales last year. Foreign exchange reserve. Another dubious piece of information is the government's official foreign exchange assets, which have remained unusually stable since 2017. During that period, China's trade surplus grew sharply, which should have led to an increase in foreign exchange reserves. Referring to this issue, Brad Setzer, a former U.S. Treasury official, stated that half of China's actual foreign exchange reserves were hidden. He said that a lot of China's foreign exchange reserves did not appear on the balance sheet of the People's Bank of China, but were hidden in shadow reserves and appeared on the balance sheets of state-run commercial banks and policy banks. Despite the increase in trade and current account surpluses, the renminbi has remained stable, meaning that some reserves could be used to intervene in the forex market. Bond trading. In March, China's bond market was in turmoil after fixed-income brokers stopped providing aggregate bond quotes to data providers that bond investors had long relied on. Bond trading volumes fell sharply by 3% to 30%. Some media said this was because regulators were trying to address data security concerns. COVID deaths. Financial media Caixin quoted official data released by Zhejiang Province in July, saying that the number of cremations in the province in the first quarter of this year jumped 72.7% year-on-year. This is a rare glimpse into the number of COVID deaths after the Chinese government suddenly relaxed its pandemic prevention measures in December 2022. Later this data disappeared. The official statement was also removed from Chinese websites, and Caixin removed the report. Academic database. The China National Knowledge Infrastructure, a major academic repository of the Communist Party, has restricted overseas subscribers from accessing it since April 4. Berkeley, an official at the University of California, said in an online notice that this means foreign academics do not have access to China's CCP documents, patents, statistics, and seminar materials. Biographies of senior officials. The biographies of high-level politicians and officials have been reduced, and the latest format contains only a few words about basic personal information, which is far different from the detailed resumes that were common in the past. Moreover, since Xi Jinping secured the third term as General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party last October, the CCP has not released the content of the Politburo meeting for at least 3 months. The Politburo usually meets every month and publishes a press release after the meeting. However, there were no press releases in November 2022, January and May this year. Former Foreign Minister Qin Gang was suddenly promoted in July, a month before he disappeared from the public. It underscored a serious lack of information about the CCP elites. Chinese netizens have lashed out the government's latest crackdown on freedom of information. A netizen said on Sina Weibo, "Does the government think the problem will be solved by keeping your mouth shut and blindfolded?" Fertility rate at record low, China expected to face more economic hardship. According to China Population and Development Research Center, a preliminary calculation shows that China's total fertility rate has fallen to 1.09 in 2022, a record low. With the outbreak of the population crisis, the economic woes will be more severe. At the 2023 annual meeting of the Chinese Population Society held recently, a document submitted by demographers from the China Population and Development Research Center showed that China's total fertility rate reached a record low in 2022. It is the lowest fertility level in countries with a population of over 100 million in the world. The paper shows that between 2014 and 2016, China's total fertility rate fluctuated around 1.8. After that, the fertility level fell rapidly. In 2020, it was 1.3. In 2021, China's total fertility rate fell to a very low 1.15. In 2022, preliminary data showed the total fertility rate fell to 1.09. The total fertility rate is usually referred to as the fertility rate. It reflects the total number of children born in a woman's life. Due to infant mortality and disease, in general, the total fertility rate in developed countries must reach at least 2.1 in order to reach the level of generational replacement. That level will not let the total population decline with the change of generations. A country's economic policies, fiscal taxes, social and welfare systems are formulated on the basis of demographic data and demographic structure. Regarding the decline in the number of births and the rapid aging of the Chinese population, Beijing authorities have previously introduced a series of measures to increase fertility rates, such as incentives to improve childcare facilities and finances in some localities. In addition to those problems, China's population crisis has another hidden concern: young people are reluctant to get married. Taking 2022 as an example, the number of marriage registrations in China decreased by 803,000 pairs compared to the previous year. Chinese demographic scholar Liang Jianzhang pointed out that due to the declining population of young generations, it is foreseeable that the number of marriages in China will continue to decline in the next few years. According to a report released by the Chinese think tank Nua Population Research in February this year, China has the second highest cost of raising children in the world, second only to South Korea. And the cost of raising a child to 18 years old is already 6.9 times the per capita GDP of China. According to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics of China on January 17 this year, China's birth population was 9.56 million in 2022 and the death toll was 10.41 million. The population decreased by 850,000 from the end of the previous year. This was the first population decline since Mao Zedong's leadership Great Leap Forward movement in the early 1960s and China's Great Famine. Economic hardship will follow the population crisis. Overseas think tank Tianjin Political Science recently published an article titled "The Age of China's Loss Has Begun." The economic regression has become a foregone conclusion. In the article, the situation is analyzed in terms of productivity, internal factors, and external factors. Economic growth comes from three roles: population increase, capital increase, better use of human and capital, that is, increased productivity. The article described that the population crisis has already erupted. On the one hand, it points out that the birth rate is declining and the population structure has changed. On the other hand, it refers to the two major outbreaks that broke out in the past 2 decades, resulting in a rapid reduction in the size of China's population. However, the communist government has been covering up real death data. The outside world is surprised that the Chinese authorities have been slow to issue large-scale economic stimulus measures, but the top leaders have also learned about the sharp reduction of the Chinese population and that large-scale economic stimulus measures are ineffective given declining productivity. The article believes that when productivity declines, total output will naturally decline. Although technology can upgrade and increase capital investment, aggregate demand will shrink, which is an internal factor in economic regression. Don't forget to leave a comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths.